Well, we had a constructive meeting, very cordial meeting. We talked over all aspects of the bonding bill. I think we're, in terms of the projects other than transportation, we're in pretty much accord on that. We talked about the tax bill. Of course, we're in accord on that. We're still not resolved on metropolitan transit in general and the Southwest Light Rail line in particular, and I don't know whether that one's going to be achievable or not. You know, that was the impasse at the end of the legislative session 3 months later. We're still at that point of a sincere but significant difference. We agreed to meet again next Thursday afternoon to see what we can possibly knit together before then. Mr. Speaker?
I think the governor summed it up well. We had a good meeting, worked through some of the outstanding issues or questions that we had. We've decided, I think there's a couple things that we want a few answers to yet, but I think we're pretty close to agreement on everything except the Southwest Light Rail piece. So that still remains the obstacle that we're trying to figure out, and we'll see what another week what another week brings. So.
Well, we've got some work to do on the transportation piece, specifically on what the language looks like. That I think we all agree there's some additional work needs to be done there. But the numbers for the bonding bill, I believe we have pretty locked down. The speaker did ask me for some options on transit, and I believe we identified 4 or 5 different options for a way to deal with the Metro Transit issue. I expect we're going to talk more about that next week.
What's the number that you agreed to involve?
I think I don't know that we're total.
995.
Yeah, 995 would be the general obligation bonding. We still are going to try to work out the transportation piece of the bill, but likely what we'll do is we'll increase the trunk highway bonding portion of the bill. And that would make some room for some of the governor's projects in the other portions of the bill. So general obligation would stay at 995, and we'd likely pick off much of what was in the governor's requests by making room in the other parts of the bill.
So what's the total
items here on the bonding bill, or just agreed on the overall number?
Well, we didn't finally agree on anything because we have the minority caucuses both to be considered in this, and so in deference to Representative Thiessen, and I can't speak for Senator Hand, but in deference there, I said I would not agree in any final way to anything that didn't have him a chance to participate and have input into. So nothing's been cast in stone. We have drafts, and except for the St. Peter's Security Hospital. Or the sex offender part of that bonding request, all the other projects are included in there, with the one still to be resolved is on the Fort Snelling renovation. But all the others are included. But again, until we have that conclusion from the consent from the 2 majorities whose votes are needed, nothing has been finalized.
Is there any chance of a special session without some resolution of Southwest?
I believe not. Senator Bakk can speak for his caucus, but I heard from Representative Thiessen that was his caucus support or requirement. It's not just Southwest. It's all Metro Transit or everything that would be part of the funding that would be provided in that measure, depending on how it's structured.
So what's the final number in bonding, and is there, with the transportation bonds in it, and is there enough time to do this with state fair and elections and everything else coming up? This was supposed to be the final week.
Well, we're persisting because we know there's a lot at stake for a lot of people in terms of the tax bill, in terms of the bonding bill. That's why we're continuing this fight now. We are 3 months past the legislative session conclusion with basically the same impasse that stalled this matter then. So I can't. But we're going to give it another shot next Thursday afternoon because we recognize the importance of it. But we're all aware that we're talking about a timetable now that's shrinking.
Senator, what were the options?
Well, there's been a lot of conversation about dissolution of CTIP completely, which ultimately would allow the 5 CTIP counties to do a 1/2 cent sales tax like the other 82 already can. So that would be one, a dissolution of CTIP. The other would be just leave CTIP in place and just allow them to do a 1/2% like the other 82 counties can. The other option would be the current law says that a rail authority can only do 10% of a project. So there's kind of 2 options around that. You either could be take the 10% out of law and just be silent on that and let counties kind of figure it out. Or you could take the Senate's proposal from the last night and just allow a local rail authority to do up to 20% of a project. So those are the things that we identified as potential options. They all probably work. Some probably have more support from the counties than others.
What about a certificate of participation approach in metro transit on its own? Is that an option?
It's one of the things we talked about, but that would require a general fund appropriation. So we didn't spend a lot of time talking about it.
Is this progress from a month ago? Have you moved any closer to a special session?
You know what, just to quickly summarize it, and again, in the House, we don't have the votes for Southwest Light Rail, and in the Senate, Senator Bakk is telling me they don't have the votes to pass these bills if Southwest Light Rail isn't in. So that obviously leaves Southwest Light Rail as the outstanding issue, and my own personal opinion is that likely I'm not sure that we can stop Southwest Light Rail, and I think that frankly Met Council and CTIB are probably going to figure out a way. If we take no action, if we walk away from where we are right now, I believe that Met Council and CTIB will probably try to do or figure out a way to do Southwest Light Rail without the legislature, and we're going to lose everything that's on the table right now. And I don't think that that's very good legislating. I don't think that's very good leadership to walk away from $550 million of tax relief, to walk away from $1 billion in bonding, $700 million of road and bridge money, when Southwest Light Rail probably will find its own path without the legislature. I also will say I don't think they should be able to build Southwest Light Rail without legislative approval. So I think that's wrong, but I also believe they're probably going to try to do it. So.
Is that your message to skeptical members of doing anything for Southwest Light Rail? They're going to do it anyway, so let's get some tax relief out of it?
You know, the problem is Southwest Light Rail is such a controversial project that I just don't have support in my caucus for Southwest Light Rail. You know, I think we found out yesterday that one of the pending lawsuits against Southwest Light Rail now has a court date. I think it's in next year, as far as a trial is concerned, to resolve that pending litigation. There's still 2 pending lawsuits against Southwest Light Rail. The route is controversial. The folks along the line don't like it, and you know, let's all be honest. There was a million candle power spotlight shining on Southwest Light Rail since the last night of session, and my members just don't support it. They think there's a better way to spend our transportation dollars, and you know, we'd like to do that.
Are any of those options that were discussed amenable to you?
You know, those are options to fund Southwest Light Rail. My caucus doesn't support Southwest Light Rail, so that's the issue. That's the divide right now. You know, we'll talk about those options. You know, one of the better options that I think we ought to do is leave transit up to local government to fund, and not have the state involved. But you know, I just also said that I believe that you shouldn't be able to spend $2 billion on a capital improvement project without legislative approval, and that's why that 10% is there. So, I mean, I don't know whether Met Council or CTIB will try to build Southwest Light Rail, but I believe they will.
Well, I mean, I have to strongly disagree. First of all, if the legislature wanted to interject itself into this decision, this has not been snuck by anybody. This has been a very prominent issue for the last 5 years, and if the legislature wanted to interject itself in any aspect of Southwest Light Rail, the design of it, the cost, or anything else, then they have had ample opportunities to do so. They hold legislative hearings on a whole variety of issues, and they summon members of the executive branch and others in the community to testify as they should, and they should hear. They should hear from every single one of these cities whose elected officials have passed resolutions twice now in support of this project. Are there some people opposed? Sure there are. Are there some people whose property would be impacted by the route who are now filing lawsuits? Yes, there are. You're not going to get a project going through this dense a population corridor and have it be unanimous support. But the Twin West Chamber, the Chambers of Commerce, the city councils and others have consistently supported this project because they recognize the economic benefits. MnDOT came out this last week, said traffic congestion in metro areas has increased drastically, 23% in this last year alone. It's going to continue to get worse. The problem with being opposed to Southwest Light Rail is there's no one's posited an alternative, except to pack more and more people on the existing highway system and have it become more and more congested and have this be a less attractive area for people to live, for businesses to locate or expand, which is why the businesses and the chambers representing the businesses along this route are consistently strongly in support of this. So the legislature won't let us improve the economic and social vitality of the metropolitan area and then turn around and say, well, we're against it and offer nothing as a better alternative. I think that's really irresponsible.
Anything else?
So is next Thursday it, or
We'll see. We'll see.
Senator Bakk, can you imagine a special session without something for Southwest Light Rail? The speaker said you can't.
No, I really don't. I mean, the Senate put one of those options in the last night. Our caucus feels really strongly about that. We've had no conversations about a bonding bill without Southwest in it. And actually, it's larger than Southwest. I hear from Botno and Gateway, and it's a much larger. Oftentimes, this gets characterized as being about Southwest, but it really is about Metro Transit much more broadly than just that.
Governor, are you running out of time realistically? Ideally next week when you want to have a special session, is there a new deadline in mind for you?
I never said there was a deadline next week was the goal 2 weeks ago, but you're right. I mean, now that deadline or that date has come and is passing, and I don't know when you say a point of it's just too late, but again, the clock is ticking. We'll see if we can get anything next Thursday. But I point out again, we're at the same impasse that we were at the end of the legislative session, which is why we're here today in 3 months, and I don't think there's anything closer to a resolution in terms of, and I respect the Speaker and his caucus's position. They have a perfect right to their position, and others have a perfect right to their position, and they're just irreconcilable. And if that's the way it's been for 3 months, I don't see any reason to protract this any longer. If there's a chance we can resolve things next Thursday afternoon, we should do so. If not, we should, I think, face up to the reality that we're not going to be able to pull this together. So, that's just my view, though. But I'm willing to convene meetings, and I'm willing to continue to participate. We all recognize there are important features to the tax bill and the bonding bill that benefit a lot of Minnesotans, and those are important reasons to continue. But I think this issue already is a poster board for the fall elections in some areas of the state. And the people who are going to just disregard the best long-term interests of this region of the state because of some political calculation they made, very, very unfortunate, but it's also very unavoidable.
So are you all done if Thursday doesn't work it out? The governor said he is.
Not necessarily. I've said all along that as long as I think there's an opportunity to get to agreement or a chance that we can get to agreement, I'll keep working and talking. And I think we should. I also hope that this doesn't come down to Southwest Light Rail because I think there's a lot of really good things in these two bills that a lot of Minnesotans want and a lot of people agree with. And we shouldn't let something that we can't seem to agree on stop all of this other thing, all of this other stuff that we do agree on. So I don't think there should be a correlation between the two. And I think that's what frustrates people about how we do things in St. Paul. They shouldn't necessarily be connected. And there's a lot of good things in these bills, and I think we should pass them. And I hope that Southwest Light Rail doesn't get in the way.
I just got to say again, this is about more than Southwest. This is about Metro Transit and funding for in this case, we propose the counties having the wherewithal to finance their own projects and giving them that capability. I've been doing this for 40 years, and every bill I've ever been in legislation I've been involved in has involved road construction for mostly greater Minnesota projects, some metro projects, and metro transit. There's been a balance that's been agreed to that, again, recognizes that we're all in this together. What benefits the metropolitan area benefits greater Minnesota. It pays for county program aids, school aids, local government aids, and a whole raft of other services that people out in greater Minnesota benefit from. Similarly, with yesterday's announcement up in the Iron Range that the United Taconite is expanding. That benefits the range, it benefits the region, and it benefits all of our state. What benefits one benefits all, and to splinter this off and say, well, it's Southwest Light Rail because you can put that on a poster board out in parts of Minnesota, and people think that their legislators somehow protecting them from having something taken away from them is wrong, and it's short-sighted, and it's really destructive to the economic future of this state.
Okay,
That's it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Can you talk on away from light rail and transit, on bonding in general? I'm getting questions from communities asking, so is my project still in that type of thing? Is the bonding bill from the last annexation, is it pretty much intact, or are you pulling things in and out?
Nothing's been removed from that bill that I'm just the ones added. Yeah, nothing's been removed.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.